We're going to have a slightly different format today. I know people sometimes have to leave a little early and and tend to roll in. So we're going to spend a couple of minutes on brief updates. If you need to leave quickly or aren't going to be able to stay past 9 o'clock, for example, let me know and I'll recognize you early. At about 8:45, though, we're going to pause and listen to the training that's going to be presented by Kari Tari, the town clerk, on governance of committees. So I thought we'd just put that sort of in the middle so that we had the most attendance possible. If you can stay for that, that would be great and important. If you don't, this meeting will be recorded and be put up later, and we'll get going. So with that, is there anybody who's under a particular time pressure that needs to be recognized or before we get to that break point at 8:45? Just raise your hand and I'll recognize you. In the meantime, I'm going to make my updates fairly brief this morning. I already mentioned the training. We do expect to be back in person and hybrid at the select board meeting room for our next chair's breakfast, which should be September 17th. Our understanding is that the air conditioning, which we clearly don't need this week, but is going to be installed at the townhouse this coming weekend. So we hope that project will finally wrap up and we can get back to our normal. But do be on the lookout for that, because there have been some issues at the townhouse as well about the accessibility, because the accessible entrance on the side has been blocked off by a construction project going on next door. So just keep that in mind if you begin to reschedule that. So there'll be an announcement about availability of the townhouse for meetings. So just keep your eye on that. With that, if there isn't, oh, and I guess I wanted to just briefly mention, we did have the special town election last night. Question 1 on the roads program did pass by about a 2/3 majority. And unfortunately, question 2 on the amenities building appears to have failed by about 400 votes. So that's the status on the election if you haven't heard those results yet. And I think I'll start. Tracy, would you like to go first today?
Sure, I would like to go first. Andrew Herchek cannot be here. He's likely going to have difficulty coming, so I'm going to report on CPS and on the region. Okay, so CPS, as everybody knows, school opens next week. Our facilities and maintenance crew have done a great job getting all their schools ready. There's a CMSBC building committee meeting tomorrow. At the region, we have lots of activity happening. High school pre-season started, so you'll see lots of kids around the high school, which is always great when kids are back to school. Today, our new teachers are coming in. Opening day for staff is on Monday at the Ellen Garrison building at the Concord Middle School, so all of our staff can see our beautiful new building. So thank you to the town of Concord for that. And then I guess I'll get to the amenities building. We're extremely disappointed in the vote yesterday for permanent ADA compliant bathrooms. And I think I've been really clear over the past 2 years, it is the law. So we'll continue to advocate for permanent bathrooms there. I literally just got off a call with someone that said my mother's in a walker and she cannot get into those porta potties. We have porta potties there. I don't know really what happened. This is something that I'm not sure why the voters aren't supporting it. I think there was so much confusion on the voter information packet. I think that that needs to be addressed. There was an error in it with the tax impact. It was corrected, but at the point that it was corrected, over 650 people had already placed their votes. I think we had about 1,100 people that voted by mail. So those 1,100 people got the misinformation. So I'm very concerned about that. I'm very concerned about how this all played out. So there's certainly more to come. I think that, it is our moral and ethical obligation to advocate for people with disabilities. And I'm just going to continue to do that. The school committee is having a meeting tonight. We will be discussing that at our meeting and our next steps. So you will definitely hear more about, and I think, we have to stop calling it an amenities building. It's bathrooms. So we will have a discussion on accessible bathrooms. And of course, we're going to continue our discussion on anti-Semitism. So we are expecting probably a larger group tonight. And we look forward to it. And then the only other thing I will say is just, to say in this group, our public comment period is 20 minutes, and we have a very rigid public comment period. And I think, when we talk about training, maybe there's some more discussion that we can have about public comment. Thanks.
Thank you, Tracy. I'm just going to go around according to how people appear on my screen. So let's go to Tui for the Concord Cultural Council.
Okay, thank you. Not a lot's happened except that, as you probably all know at this point, the Concord Cultural Council has also taken over administration of the Concord Center Cultural District, which is a very different creature. Concord has two cultural districts, West Concord and Downtown Concord, and each one gets a flat $15,000 of funding from the Mass Cultural Council to spend within the cultural area. So that's kind of exciting. However, it's a very different shift in the culture of the Concord Cultural Council. So we've used part of the funding to, and this is totally within the purview of the funding, to hire Xana Noe to consult with us to help us plan and formulate sort of a mission for what we will do going forward with the Concord Cultural Council. On one other note relating to current events in Concord, the ADL complaint filed against the schools for anti-Semitism, I think the select board liaisons came out to the committees, and we had our liaison, Mary Hartman, come to our last meeting and urge us to go to the Concord Carlisle Human Rights Commission's active bystander training. So I went to that last week, and it was very helpful. And I think it's generic for bullying and abuse of other people. And I think it had some very good ideas. And I would urge everybody here to try to get to the one in September, although I'm hearing that that's fairly booked up. So that's about it from the Concord Cultural Council.
Great. Andrea Solomon, why don't we cover Public Works?
Sure. So our next meeting is going to be September 10th, 4 p.m. in person and hybrid. And we're hoping for a lot of public to show up and partake in helping us prioritize and understand the whole process for this longer range planning that we are able to do now with the funding that was passed last night. So it's going to be a real balance between Public Works Commission, Transportation Advisory Committee, as well as staff and select board, probably getting a lot of input from the public and balancing all that education and prioritization that's going to take place in the next year.
Thank you. Doug Ellis?
Good morning. The Historical Commission has the Historical Preservation Report out in draft form, out for public comment. We've been getting back some really good feedback from some folks, so we'll be taking that to heart and incorporating that into the next version. It's open for public comment until the 7th. We're meeting on a regular basis to discuss any comments that come in. So that's really our focus right now.
Thank you. Judith Long.
Good morning, everyone. Reporting from the Land Use Working Group. I'm co-chair with Sven Weber. Sven has probably filled you in that the basic charge for the committee is to consider the impact of several new developments in town with particular attention to opportunities for public facilities. We are a committee made up of 9 members that largely draw from other committees in town. Some of you on this call are on the committee as well. That's planning, public works, housing, etc. We are fairly early in our work. We are still gathering data. We are familiarizing ourselves with several sites that have been made available for development or potentially are available for development. We are learning about plans for those sites. We are learning about all of the intersecting timelines. We are learning from town staff. And we are also beginning to engage some outside opinions with regard to market value and so forth. So heavily in the data gathering stage. Look for an update from this committee. I think our first formal report to the select board is due in about 2 months. So we are working to a preliminary report around that date. And that is it from the Land Use Working Group.
Thank you, Judith. Sue LaChance.
Good morning. The West Concord Cultural District Committee is still on hiatus for the summer vacation. So nothing to report, but we will be getting back in gear in the early September timeframe. So looking forward to planning our Discover West Concord days, some art installations, public art installations, etc. So more to come.
Great, thank you. Keith Bergman.
Hi, Keith Bergman, Chair of the Concord Municipal Affordable Housing Trust. Just wanted to call to everyone's attention, the next quarterly meeting of the Concord Housing Roundtable will be on Tuesday, August 26th at 5 p.m. on Zoom. It's a virtual only meeting. The roundtable consists of the Select Board, the Planning Board, Community Preservation Committee, and the 4 groups with housing in their name. An important date coming up, we're told, is Tuesday, September 9th at the State House. That's when the legislature's Joint Committee on Revenue, which is chaired by Senator Jamie Eldridge of Acton, will have a hearing on all of the proposals for a real estate transfer fee for affordable housing. That includes Concord's home rule petition, along with those of many other communities, and also a statewide local option proposal that the town supports. Letters of support, testimony will be appreciated. We'll bring it up at the roundtable meeting next Tuesday for further discussion. As many on the call know, and the housing groups are acutely aware of, there's a funding round for community preservation funds due on September 19th. The roundtable will be discussing the community housing application that we'll be seeking this year. I want to thank the Select Board for their vote for establishing a priority for housing for seniors for the funds which will eventually come in from New England Deaconess for its new development to be built across from where they are now. Meanwhile, as we'll hear from others on the call, the trust is funding the Assabet River Homes project. We are also pursuing surplus state property at 91B Main Street, and appreciate everyone's support. Thank you.
Okay, Mike Lawson for Economic Vitality.
Good morning, everybody. The Economic Vitality Committee is meeting this afternoon. Primary on our agenda is reviewing the select board goals and trying to make progress on our committee goals for the upcoming year. We are also going to be reviewing the Historical Commission's report and provide feedback to them. And we'll be looking at a revision of the Mass Municipal Act that has a lot to do with generating local revenues. So that's it for us, Mark.
Thank you, Mike. Brad Dye.
Thank you, Brad Dye with the Climate Action Committee. Good morning. Our top priority for the whole year is going to be updating our climate action and resilience plan for the next 5 years. Townhouse staff have prepared a draft RFP that we are in the process of marking up. We're happy to report we're on track to secure our consultant for this probably by late October. We're thrilled that the transportation funding vote was successful, and we want to really congratulate Public Works, TAC, town staff, everybody else who had a hand in making that happen and securing a successful outcome. This was an example of a really complicated issue that voters wouldn't necessarily understand all the nuances of and wouldn't want to take the time to understand them. This was something from start to finish that was very well communicated and executed. And while no public campaign is perfect, and while we wish that there was much higher voter participation than there was, I think all of us can learn from this as a model for how to do our communications when our committees have public facing work. So again, really job well done on getting this, and we look forward to helping identify the safety improvements and the things that can happen to reduce vehicle miles traveled in town over the long term so that we can meet our emissions goals, which we must do. One other thing which I'd like to report is that we have suspended the composting pilot. We view it as highly successful. Townhouse staff were having some difficulty with that success. We were having issues with the bins being too full and with occasional contamination issues that were really nasty. So as we look for a phase 2 on composting, and the Climate Action Committee feels very strongly that we do still need to have a phase 2 and very long-term scale composting in town. We need to take a little bit of time and figure out how to implement phase 2, and we'll work with Townhouse staff to do that. Thank you.
Okay, so it's about 8:45. As I mentioned at the top, we're going to take a pause and hear from the town clerk's office on the town governance training that we scheduled for today. And I appreciate Kari taking the time to be here with us, and we'll return to committee updates at the end of this. So this is intended to cover some really important topics. I'd encourage members of your committees to also go ahead and listen to this, and we'll hear more about some of the training opportunities. So welcome, Kari. Thank you. After a busy day yesterday, we appreciate you being here this morning.
Thank you, Mark, and good morning, everyone. Yeah, the town clerk's office is very excited about this new approach to effective governance training. We're shifting from annual to quarterly trainings to benefit, the offering of trainings throughout the year. The first session, which is coming up actually in October, we've decided on October 18th, the training will be held in person in the hearing room at the townhouse in the morning. We don't have exactly the time, but probably 10 a.m. I'm guessing 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. This year it's coordinated by the town clerk's office. Next year, when we have state elections planned, it will be coordinated by the town manager's office. So that way we're not skipping years, because the town clerk's office we can't deal with that. And the ballots that we have to process for fall elections in state election years. So the part of that training, the in-person training, will be covering the basics of ethics, open meeting law, and public records law. And that part will be recorded on Zoom, and then we'll break out into interactive sessions that will be led by the select board chair, that will be meeting planning and management, including probably Tracy, your suggestion about public comment period. That would be a place where that would be covered. Minutes and agendas, talking about accurate record keeping, agenda detail, benefits and pitfalls of using AI tools, ethics and oaths, which town moderator Carmen Reese has agreed to help us with, and Tales from the Crypt, governance mishaps and lessons learned. So this, the point of this, of course, is transparency. We've got the hands-on benefit and practical approaches. The second session, which will be in December, is preparing for town meeting. So this will allow people who may be presenting at town meeting or preparing warrant articles to learn more about how to prepare those warrant articles, how to prepare for public hearings, with input from Finance Committee, Planning Board, or Planning Department, and Select Board. And also how to prepare for those presentations that are made at town meeting. And then session 3, we take a deeper dive into record keeping with minutes and agendas to make sure that the minute taking is accurate, agenda posting is compliant, and of course, meeting locations are accessible. So we'll be offering templates, best practices, and talking about, open meeting law, and also the administrative policy and procedure number 10 and the committee handbook that are all tools you can use. And then session 4, we'll be talking about appointments and reappointments. This will be in April when we're getting closer to reappointments, annual reappointments. We have term limits and exceptions. We have committee charges that allow, some committees can do their own appointments of subcommittees, some cannot. Having a clear understanding of the parameters of your committee's charge is really important. Working with your select board liaison for committee appointments, and also for those town manager appointed committees, working with the town manager's office. And then finally, the 5th session is open meeting law review, which comes full circle. This is for, a refresher and for newly appointed members who have not been exposed to open meeting law. And, it's a completely different world when you're entering committee life, and it can be very frustrating for people who may have, received the information from the town clerk's office, but it's a lot to read. It's really a reference for you. So we want to make sure that people have as much information as they need from the outset. And so that is what the planner looks like. We will be, of course, taking input along the way. So if there are things that we can do differently, that we can do better, if following a session, there are ideas for the next session that you'd like to see, you will absolutely want to include that, because the entire point of this is to help you. Are there any questions about the training?
Could you repeat the tentative date in October? I didn't catch that.
Yes, October 18th, which is a Saturday.
Thank you.
Sure.
And Carrie, can
Tracy?
I just ask,
Oh.
in terms of participation, are you expecting committees to send a representative, or is this meant for everyone involved in task forces and committees to
This
participate?
is open to everyone,
Open to, but participation
everyone, absolutely. Because
required or
no, it's not required. But it's important.
Mhm,
So,
absolutely.
yeah. And, for people who have recently joined a committee or have been on the committee and will be a clerk, will be a chair of a committee, it's important to know what you're taking on.
Mhm.
It's important for committee chairs to recognize the importance of giving every member of the committee a voice. To know when you need to respond, when you're in a meeting, you've got, the public input session, are you required to respond to the public comments? You're not, but how to approach that? Without feeling the stress of, when there are meetings that can be politically charged or have a lot of different opinions. So
Sure.
Yeah.
There are two topics or subtopics that have come up in our task force that I'll just mention here. One is caution with regard to discussion of topics by email.
mhm,
That emails are considered part of open discussion, and therefore I constantly advise that we cannot be discussing things by email.
that's good.
The other the other topic that we have not yet hit, because we're not yet writing a report, but how one writes a group report without being able to exchange drafts, and with SharePoint drives being read only, is as
Mhm.
yet unclear to me. So guidance with regard to report writing by committee would also be useful.
Okay, absolutely. That is something we hear about a lot.
I bet.
And it, it's about, to a degree, it's about transparency at the cost of efficiency.
Mhm.
It's, government the wheels turn slowly, but that's the nature of transparency. But there are ways that work can be done. So
I look forward
yes,
to learning about that. Good.
Good, good.
Thank
All
you.
right. Tracy, you had your hand up.
I just had a couple questions and a comment. Do you have all this information in writing that you could send to us that we could share with our committee just so they can see what to expect on the sessions?
Yes, yes. We have a planner. We're finalizing that. Once we have more dates, we'll share that. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, and then just another question about public comment. We have a policy at the school committee. It's BEDH, because I think most of you know that school committees nationally have been kind of the hotbed of public comment for the past 5 years. And I think in our current national administration, it still continues. So just if there's any town policy on public comment, and I guess that I attended another committee meeting, and just a reminder to all the chairs that public comment should be directed through the chair and not towards anyone in the meeting, because I had public comment directed at me directly in someone else's meeting. And I think we just have to be really cognizant of that when we're training chairs on how to address public comment. Because I think it really can set up some animosity between citizens, and I don't think we want that at all. And just to really have some, discussion around that topic. Thanks.
Yeah. Civility is important. Very
Mhm.
important. Thank you. Ray?
Good morning. Did I hear you correctly, Kara, that you're going to videotape these so those who can't make them during the day can watch this at a later point?
Yes, so the in-person will be Zoom for the overview, but not the breakout sessions, because that would be challenging to do. The online, the remaining sessions will be online, and those will absolutely be recorded
Thank you.
to be available, and they will probably be offered in the evening. But even so, not everyone can make it, and we want to reach out to as many people as we can.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
These were some really good questions. Thank you. The overview of the governance planner was distributed with the invite to the chair's breakfast this morning. So for those of you that want to kind of pencil that in and share what's coming up, that would be good. Specifically on public comment, the Mass Municipal Association runs a number of webinars, which are also recorded, which are the opportunities for the town councils of various communities to go into a lot of detail on the open meeting law and public comment. The takeaway that I have from some of the training that's been delivered there is that announcing a clear policy and expectation for how public comment is going to be handled at the beginning of the meeting and sticking with it is very important, because it gives you the ability to then take action. If you just say we're opening it for public comment and you don't lay down any ground rules, then you really quickly open yourself up for, as the chairperson, for discussion about whether you're discriminating one type of comment against another, and that's really important, which is why the select board also has a policy of several minutes, a specific period of time allotted for that, and a specific place on the agenda. So there are different ways of doing it, but the key thing to do is to make sure that the committee and the public attending your meeting understand how that's going to be handled in any given meeting. With that, Kari, was there more that you were going to cover today?
Thank you. Yes, I wanted to just briefly mention there was an open meeting law complaint about minutes not being posted properly. This was earlier in the summer, and I just wanted to bring that up because while most of the committees that were complained about had approved their minutes in a timely manner, which is within 30 days or 3 regular meetings, the town standard is that minutes are forwarded to the town clerk's office and we post them online. So the public expectation is that if you approve the minutes, that they're posted. So if they're not posted, they haven't been approved. It's an appearance of a lack of transparency, even if it's not present. But for some committees, they hadn't approved minutes, and this can happen very easily because if you skip a month of meetings or you don't have approving meeting minutes on every agenda, then it can sort of fall off. Sometimes also the clerk is not at the meeting, and another clerk has not been designated. So it becomes an issue of who's now taking the minutes. So what happens is there need to be minutes created. AI can be a tool, but it can't be a substitute for creating summary minutes. Being specific on agendas can help to create the foundation of what the minutes will be. Sometimes agendas are so general that it's hard to remember what happened. Recording, if you don't have a clerk, or if the clerk wants to participate, because let's face it, it's hard to take notes and participate in a meeting at the same time. I'm on the board of registrars by law as a town clerk. I'm the note taker, but I also have a large role in speaking and planning these meetings. And what I do is turn on my iPhone recording. The chair announces that the meeting is being recorded, which is important and part of open meeting law. And then I can use that recording to create minutes after the fact, and I don't have to worry about taking notes. I can participate freely. Once the draft minutes are created, I delete that recording. That is not required to be kept, your own recording, but you may find that it's a very helpful tool for the clerk. So always be sure if you don't, and it may be that you have a rotating clerk, because it does take a lot of time, make sure that you designate someone to be a clerk. Some committees will actually check the notes before the adjournment of the meeting so that everyone is on the same page of the notes, and that makes it a lot easier. I remember one committee in another community I worked at actually created the minutes and approved them before the end of the meeting. So it was done. It was part of the process. A very helpful tool for you in creating your agendas is always include minutes approval on your agenda. And that sort of sets a deadline. And, for committees that are meeting more frequently, it's 3 meetings. So you can plan it out. It doesn't have to be the next meeting, but maybe you have a draft that's created, that's shared at the very next meeting, or an outline asking for input at the very next meeting. And then you can move toward having an approved version at that point. And that's really all I have to say about that. I know that it can be an inconvenience, and you don't want to be accused of something. You're all doing great work. The documenting of the work you do is important in memorializing what you've done. With the historical perspective, I don't know how many of your committees have looked back at other committee minutes from years and years ago to see how when there may have been a committee that worked on a project, then concluded, and now something related is happening again, and you're really relying on what happened before. So think about the historical context when you're creating minutes. Thank you. Any questions about that?
Thank you so much, Kari. One thing I just mentioned quickly about recordings is that although many meetings are recorded by Zoom, it's important to understand that Zoom recordings are not kept forever. So if you're depending on the Zoom recording, some additional steps need to be taken to make sure that it's available. If minutes are handled on a timely basis, it shouldn't be an issue. But once you get past like 90 days or so, unless they've been moved over by MMN to YouTube or something like that, they may become unavailable. So just keep that in mind. And it is important to have a clerk at all times. So thank you. I hope everybody will look forward to the training. I appreciate you coming on, Kari.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity, everyone.
Okay. I think Dan Schmidt, I think I'm up to you on my screen.
Hi, I'm the co-chair of the Ag Committee. We've been working on some documents on housing situation for farmers. So we've done a 3-page document, which we're going to eventually pass on once we kind of finalize it. And we're also just sent a survey out to farmers in Concord to find out what their housing needs are, what they have now, and try to pitch the importance of farming and farms for Concord and housing for farmers. So that's one thing we're working on. Ag Day is on September 6th from 10 to 2. And then Stone Soup is on September 21st. It's the 14th annual Stone Soup and the 20th annual Ag Day. There is a website for Stone Soup where you can buy tickets, and we're all struggling with the weather. All of the farms are like, a lot of stuff is delayed, some stuff is doing well, but that's typical for farming. And that's all.
Dan, at least it's raining today.
Yeah, exactly.
Stephen Bader.
Thank you, Mark. Good morning. I just want to first thank Keith for mentioning the Concord Housing Roundtable and the LOHA, the Local Option for Housing Affordability efforts. The Housing Authority has a meeting this afternoon. I'm sorry, tomorrow afternoon, and that is on our agenda. We will be providing you with a supportive letter on the local real estate transfer fee. News from the Housing Authority, 2 items I wanted to mention. At our last meeting, we had an in-person meeting and invited the public to join us in our final discussion of revised smoking policies, which we adopted, which will go into effect October 1st. This is the first time smoking policies have been revisited or changed in several years, and we're moving away from a fine system for transgressors, violators, to a system of lease term enforcement. And so courts have ruled and other housing authorities have had trouble collecting fines from essentially people who are in housing, public housing, because they have low income to start with, and fines just don't make sense. But letting them know that they can't keep living there if they keep breaking the smoking rules does make sense, or so we hope. We'll see. The other news I wanted to mention is that we are continuing to see cuts in federal funding for Section 8 mobile vouchers. We have not seen any cuts to our project-based vouchers, but the federal government's control of the purse strings is reaching Concord and Concord residents with Section 8 vouchers and Concord landlords. And that's also important to understand, that the rental assistance ends up for the benefit of the tenant, but it ends up in the pockets of the landlords. And so they are also looking at some uncertainty in their rental income streams that they didn't have to worry about for the last 60 years. So that's really groundbreaking change is coming for the interim, I hope. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan. Lynn Salinger.
Good morning. Speaking to you this morning as co-chair of the Tax Relief Evaluation Task Force. We have been meeting throughout the summer, collecting data, conducting interviews, and preparing a survey questionnaire as we look to evaluate the impact of the residential tax exemption program, as well as to consider any revisions that might be made to other tax relief programs available to people in housing cost stress in town. Our charge is to consider tax relief options in order to promote economic diversity in town, as well as to help seniors remain in town. Those are two somewhat different things. We've been talking to date primarily to homeowners, but we would also like to reach out to renters and landlords to understand possible adoption of a state provision that would provide residential or property tax exemption for people who are renting affordable units. So a lot of work in progress. You'll be hearing more from our task force in the fall as we do some outreach via the Council on Aging, via the Concord Bridge, via the League of Women Voters to prepare for the rollout of this survey, which we hope will take place in October, November. Stay tuned. Thanks.
Thanks, Lynn. Warren Lee on Light Plant.
Thank you. I'm going to sound like a broken record. Through this whole year, our big focus is the transition to time of day rates, where there'll be a short period of several hours where the electricity rates are higher than other times, and that reflects the actual cost of service. And the hope is we can get folks to shift some of their electricity use away from those peak times, saving everyone money. There's a lot of different considerations in moving in this direction, and we've been working through it at each and every meeting this year. One of the things that was done was that a consulting firm was hired to do a cost of service study. This gets done every 5 or 6 years. You hire consultants who look and see, well, how much is it really costing to provide electric service to the residents? And does that mean we need more revenue or less revenue? And I'm pleased to report the cost of service study suggested that we don't need more revenue next year. It'll be pretty much steady state. Having said that, some folks' electricity rates might go up if they're not able to switch any of their electricity use away from peak times, and other folks will have their rates go down. But overall, the total revenue collected will be the same in 2026 as in 2025. And another thing we've been working on is strategies for contracting with and getting battery systems to allow us to get power at the peak times, and then use the power in off-peak times. So we're working on several different strategies for contracting with battery storage systems. That's all I have.
And Warren, to be clear, when you were talking about revenue, you were talking about the cost, not excluding the actual underlying energy cost. In other words, the overhead cost of operating the light plant.
No, I'm talking about how many dollars the light plant is going to need to collect next year.
Yeah.
From customers, and then the amount they'll need to collect next year will be the same as this year.
Including energy.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Thank you. Julie McClure.
Hi, everyone. I love hearing that revenue update. Thanks, Warren. Julie McClure from Concord Housing Development Corporation. We have been recruiting, and we have a charter that specifies no fewer than 5 members. At the end of the school year, around June, we had requested the reappointment of one of our members, but that was denied. So we had to work on filling that position, and we were able to get somebody appointed. So we're really pleased about that. We're looking at potentially recruiting more folks. Since it doesn't specify an upper limit, we might be able to bring in 2 more people. We have some people in mind. We'll see how that goes. We are actively working with Habitat for Humanity to make sure that we continue on the project on Old Marlborough Road. Some of you are aware of. We have 5 affordable units there, 3 new construction, 2 in a historic structure that are rentals that are now being maintained by the Housing Authority. That was a lengthy process these past months with a multi-party negotiation. So that was a pretty big project, but we still look to those project milestones to ensure the project move forward in a timely manner. We are also working on a project at 91B Main Street. It's still in a preliminary stage, but there's a great possibility the state will convey that site, and there will be some workforce housing developed there. But it's still under review, exactly how that might move forward. Some of it has to do with density goals, water runoff, proximity to wetlands, all the usual kinds of development constraints that you might imagine. We thank Keith and Stefan for echoing that the roundtable will be coming up on August 26th at 5 p.m. over Zoom. That includes all of the housing entities. And we'll also be having our next meeting for CHDC that morning at 8 a.m. So we've got a double header that day. And we anticipate, being a part of considerations for the land use matrix. We're watching that project move forward. We continue to watch the MCI Concord to see how that will proceed, as we're the deed holder of the 12-acre site adjacent to that. So that's an overview of some of what's going on with CHDC. Thank you.
Jill Block.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm here representing the UCargill Trust. So a lot of you are new to this call. So just for those who don't know what it is, we provide emergency financial relief to citizens of Concord, up to $2,000 annually. Most of our referrals come via the COA or the town social worker, but anybody can access us. And the types of things that, and actually they should access us, but probably promotion of it is something that could be improved upon. So to the extent that you can share this with your committees or individuals, residents, neighbors of yours who might be in need, please do let the word out that there is emergency financial support for people. And among the things we pay for, we get about 5 to 6 requests a month. And last month, one of the things we approved was a ramp for a housebound family member. We approved, we paid for car insurance for a man who makes his living as an Uber driver. Driver's ed scholarships and the camp scholarships for Concord Rec. So, and then emergency financial bills, anything that comes up that really throws somebody off and makes living here that much harder. So please help us share the word. When you get the annual appeal in November, send us money because we do send it back out into the community. We experimented this year with sending that annual appeal out in the spring, hoping that it didn't land on the pile with everybody else's appeals in November. It didn't work out as well as we had hoped, but know that this money does get redistributed to your friends and neighbors in the community. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Kate? Oh, you're still on mute, Kate. There you go.
I don't know. Okay. Good morning. I'm Kate Shartner, Chair of the Concord Historic District Commission. And unlike the rest of you, we actually don't have sort of special dates or things like that. We just chug along with our meetings. We have one tonight. We happen to have a light agenda. We meet every 3 weeks, and that's really about it. The one thing the commission is doing, which I think has been covered by a couple of other commissioners have mentioned, is the historical commission's Keeping Concord long-range planning memo, and we're all taking our a turn to reviewing that and trying to help them support that work. But that's about it.
Thank you, Kate. Mark Hanson.
Hi, good morning. I'm Mark Hanson, the Pollinator Health Advisory Committee. The focus of our work is improving the environment of pollinators in Concord for native pollinators and to reduce pesticide use in town. We will be at Ag Day coming up as we do annually. And please stop by and visit our booth. We'll be giving away some plants, native plants, of course, which are the forage of native pollinators. And we'll look forward to seeing you. We have a meeting this Wednesday if you'd like to attend. It's by Zoom this coming Wednesday. Let's see now. Today is Wednesday, a week from today at 7 p.m. and we'll have a Zoom link and an agenda posted. Thanks.
Thank you, Mark. Eve Eisenberg.
Thanks, Mark. Here representing the CPC. I don't have much to say other than we are working to come up with a policy to help us figure out what to do when the time runs out on people's grant agreements and they haven't yet finished their project, whether we can collect some of those unspent funds. We've been working with Mary, who's been helping us on this, and the CP Community Preservation Coalition as well. And hopefully on our next meeting on the 16th, we'll have something to say about that. And I'll tell you guys about that later. That's it for me.
And you have an application deadline coming up?
Yes, I mentioned it at our last chair breakfast, but it's the 19th.
Okay. Jean Goldsberry, Commission on Disabilities.
Good morning. I don't have much to report. We did not meet in August. We took the month off. And we are still waiting for a reply concerning the membership of our committee. I sent that off to the town manager in the middle of July. So hopefully we'll somebody at the town will get to that, and we'll have our membership stabilized before our September meeting. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Lois Wassoff for the FinCom.
Hi, I'll be brief. Our next meeting is August 28th. Our focus in that meeting is going to be establishing the matrix the metrics that we will be using as we continue doing our work this year to set the guidelines for the budgeting entities. And then the other topic on our agenda for the August 28th meeting, the main topic, is going to be really looking at the town's debt situation. We're getting a presentation from the town's financial advisors, Hilltop. We want to look at the town's overall debt situation, and we want to understand how that has an impact or does not have an impact on our bond rating. So we're using this time in the summer while we're waiting for the budgeting entities to begin their work and to reply to the requests that we sent out for information, to really try and work on getting an overall understanding of the town's position on some financial issues. And I guess the only other thing to report is that the select board has approved the formation of the financial policy work group. It's a public body, so our meetings will be noticed, but it's small and hopefully efficient. One representative of the select board, 2 of the finance committee, and participation and support from our acting CFO. And what focus initially is going to be very much on reserve policies, on understanding what reserves the town has now, and on reviewing current policies and making recommendations to the select board about setting policy concerning the formation of reserves and the circumstances under which those reserves can be utilized. And I guess that's it for me. I don't know if I mentioned that our next meeting is August 28th, and we'll be meeting monthly, but during our busy season, we'll actually be meeting twice a month in October, and again, when we get into the spring. And I think that's it for me.
Great. Thank you, Lois. And we're looking forward to joining with you on that policy work. Carmen.
Good morning, everybody. This is shoulder season for the moderator, in July, on I think it was the 23rd, there was a hearing before the Committee on Municipal Governance, the Joint Committee on Municipal Governance at the State House, and they took up a discussion of both Wayland's bill seeking home rule authority to have remote participation at open town meeting, and our representative's bill to allow that as an option statewide for towns to opt in. And myself and Eric, who was the chair of the town meeting study committee, and David Allen gave testimony for Concord in support of the bill. And that's all I have to report, except that I think that Mike Barrett has also filed in the Senate an omnibus bill to allow communities statewide to opt into remote participation in town meeting if they wish. Thank you.
Thank you, Carmen. And Mark Gales.
Good morning. TAC, myself as chair of Transportation Advisory Committee, is going to be taking advantage of the fact that we've got some wind in our sails with the strong approval of the Article 8 borrowing authorization, and there's a meeting going to take place this week, and continuing with community development staff and public works staff, and Andrea Solomon, chair of the Public Works Commission, further discussions too in those committees, Transportation Advisory Committee and Public Works, about building an effective system for taking community input and on suggested safety and transportation projects, and how to prioritize these. Right now, the public can highlight concerns or make suggestions through a electronic form on the TAC website, and they also give input reports and requests to the police and to the Public Works Commission and department. But how we pull all these together and make sure they are listed in a publicly accessible way, and then the process for prioritizing them and implementing them, and also educating the public on various constraints and costs associated with different scales of projects and undertakings, and interaction with traffic flow and other complicated system issues. This is something that TAC is going to be working on. I also expect that TAC will be discussing inputs for the climate action plan, including such things as moves development of some public transportation in town and to adjacent towns, and other important work to reduce dependence on cars and also make it more transportation more equitably accessible to people who can't drive. At the last TAC meeting, our Concord Public Health Director, Melanie Deneen, presented a first draft of a bicycling safety flyer and pages to put online, etc. And we're going to have some continuing discussions of this, I'm sure, at the next TAC meeting is on September 16th. So I encourage anybody who has input, suggestions, concerns about how pedestrians, cyclists, motor vehicles, etc. interact, and how we can educate people in terms of better collaboration and awareness, and anything to, actually reduce accidents and increase safety. TAC would really love to hear from members of the public. Also, our Community Development Director, Elisa Sandoval, is working with Stantec planning consultants on this comprehensive transportation strategy work, and they're trying to finalize or get together a draft report, which will be brought to TAC in September, October, and then there is intended to be a big public outreach session for the public to sort of learn about what that strategy planning has produced in November. I think that's pretty much everything. So next TAC meeting is September 16th. Thank you.
Great, thanks. We have just two more, so if we can hang in there, Theo Kinderman and then Ray Bartimuso.
Thanks, Mark. Good morning, everybody. Theo Kinderman's Chair of the Zoning Board of Appeals. We continue on a monthly basis to process the special permit request applications that are brought to us, so nothing to discuss there for on that front. But just recently, and I didn't know it existed, but apparently the Zoning Board of Appeals has a charge that was just written up and as part of the town documents, and nobody knew that it was there. But Wendy Ravelli unearthed that for us. There were actually two charges, different states that were found, one from 1969 and the other one from 1980. So needless to say that they needed some refreshing. So we're currently working on that. And once the ZBA is done with it, we will bring it up to the select board. So Mark and all your other members, you can see that within the next month or two from us. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Theo. We'll look forward to that. And Ray?
Good morning. From the 2229 Main Street Oversight Committee, the Holden Basin there, the plan by the EPA and the interested parties is to encase that. Starting next March, we have reviewed the 95% design on that. EPA is discussing having a community meeting sometime between November and early next year. The third point I want to raise is that as we're getting farther along on this, we're looking also at how we can share information within people in the community. At one point, the library had information. The EPA no longer gives us big drawings, but where we can get that sort of, as people, I think, will probably get more interested again when the holding basin has started to get encased. We generally meet on the third Friday of each month, but we are driven almost exclusively by when we receive documents from the EPA to review. So that's all I have, Mark. Thank you.
Get off of mute. Thank you, everybody. We managed to do that in just over an hour. Stefan, were you waving goodbye? Like,
No, quick question for the CPC. I had heard a rumor that the September 19th deadline might be extended, and I just wanted to know if that was a rumor or true or not true or likely or unlikely, particularly vis-a-vis the potential application for the school committee to revisit.
Eve, I don't know if you're still with us, but
If I can just say, the school committee won't need an extension, so we're good.
Okay,
Thank
okay.
you.
Sorry
Thanks for
about
the
that.
question.
Yeah, no, our deadline was extended a week, so it's stuck where it is at the 19th.
Thank you.
okay, good. Well, thank you again, everybody. Appreciate it. Enjoy the last few days of summer.